reflection on enough. The concept of enough is an old one, older than abundance, older than scarcity. It existed before comparison became constant and before accumulation was treated as a virtue. Enough was once understood as a condition, not a failure of ambition. It marked the point at which effort could cease without consequence. In modern thought, enough is rarely named. More is named. Improvement is named. Optimization is named. Enough, by contrast, is treated with suspicion. It is often mistaken for resignation or lack of discipline or unwillingness to strive. But this misunderstanding arises from a confusion between growth and excess. Growth has direction. Excess has momentum. Enough is the boundary that distinguishes the two. A moral boundary, not imposed from outside, but recognized internally. Most people sense enough long before they accept it. The body recognizes it first. Fatigue is one signal. Diminished attention is another. Irritation without clear cause often follows. These are not weaknesses. They are communications. They indicate that the threshold has been crossed. Beyond enough, effort produces diminishing returns. Beyond enough, persistence becomes erosion. Yet the mind often refuses to acknowledge this. The mind is trained to extend, to add, to continue. It treats stopping as a decision that must be justified, but enough does not require justification. It requires recognition. Enough does not announce itself loudly. It does not demand attention. It appears quietly, often disguised as boredom or heaviness, or the subtle sense that continuation is unnecessary. This subtlety is frequently ignored. The culture of more has trained attention away from sufficiency. It is taught that satisfaction is provisional and that contentment must always be temporary. Under this logic, enough becomes unreachable, but enough is not an endpoint. It is a pause that preserves proportion. Without enough, there is no rest. Without rest, there is no clarity, and without clarity, effort becomes indiscriminate. This is where moral fatigue begins. Moral fatigue is not exhaustion of the body, but exhaustion of judgment. It occurs when discernment is replaced by compulsion, when the question is no longer, is this necessary, but why stop now? Enough restores the first question. It returns agency to choice. It recognizes enough is to assert that limits are not failures. They are features. Limits create shape. Without a shape, life becomes accumulation without meaning. More tasks, more thoughts, more obligations, but meaning does not multiply in proportion to quantity. Meaning requires space. Enough creates that space. This is why enough feels uncomfortable at first. It interrupts momentum. Momentum resists interruption. It prefers continuation, even when continuation no longer serves. The moral work of enough lies in resisting this resistance, not forcefully, but quietly. Enough does not confront more, it outlasts it. When enough is honored, excess loses its urgency. The nervous system settles. The body releases its guard. The mind, initially restless, begins to simplify. This simplification is not loss, it is refinement. To stop at enough is to preserve what matters. Consider how often effort continues past usefulness, how frequently conversations extend beyond understanding, how often days are overfilled without improvement. Enough would shorten these without harm, but enough is rarely taught. Instead, endurance is praised, even when endurance erodes well-being. Productivity is admired, even when it consumes discernment. In this environment, enough becomes a moral rebellion, not loud, not dramatic, but firm. Enough says, this is sufficient, this is complete for now. This does not require further extraction. The moral clarity of enough lies in restraint. Restraint is not deprivation. It is protection. It protects energy. It protects attention. It protects the integrity of effort. Without restraint, even meaningful pursuits become distorted. Care turns into obligation. Responsibility turns into overextension. Commitment turns into depletion. Enough restores balance. It allows care to remain care, responsibility to remain sustainable, commitment to remain chosen. At night, this principle becomes especially relevant. The day presents countless opportunities to exceed enough. The night offers none. Nothing essential can be added after capacity has diminished. Yet, to attempt to continue anyway, they review, they replay, they plan, not because planning is required, but because stopping feels unfamiliar. Enough feels like absence at first, but absence is not emptiness. It is relief from unnecessary continuation. The moral reflection on enough is not abstract. It is practical. It asks, what no longer needs to be carried? What has already reached its proper limit? What can be left without consequence? These questions do not require immediate answers. Often, simply asking them loosens the grip of excess. The body responds first. Breathing deepens. Muscles release. Posture softens. The body has been waiting for permission to stop. Enough provides that permission. The mind may protest. It may warn of missed opportunities, unfinished tasks, unrealized potential. But these warnings are generalized. They lack specificity. Enough, by contrast, is precise. It applies only to the present moment. It does not deny future effort. It postpones it appropriately. Enough is not final. It is timely. This distinction matters. Finality threatens identity. Timeliness restores order. Enough today does not limit tomorrow. It preserves it. Those who ignore enough often discover this too late. Burnout is the consequence of prolonged refusal. Burnout is not caused by effort alone, but by effort without boundary. Enough is the boundary that prevents collapse. It is a form of care, not indulgence. Care for the self, and by extension, care for what one is responsible for. A depleted person cannot steward anything well. Enough ensures stewardship remains possible. This moral reflection is not a demand to reduce life, but to write it by size, to match effort to capacity, to match concern to influence, to match ambition to sustainability. Enough is not minimalism. It is appropriateness. It asks, what fits? What fits this body, this day, this moment? At night, the answer is almost always less. Less thought, less effort, less continuation. The day has already taken what it requires to give more now is unnecessary. Enough honors the cycle. An effort and rest, engagement and withdrawal, attention and release. To disrupt this cycle is to invite imbalance. Enough restores rhythm. It does not announce itself with certainty. It arrives as a quiet suggestion. It says, this can wait. This can remain unfinished. This is sufficient for now. Listening to that suggestion requires trust. Trust that nothing essential will be lost. Trust that value is not created through exhaustion. Trust that restraint is not a laziness. This trust develops slowly, but once learned, it becomes stabilizing. Enough simplifies decisions. It reduces internal conflict. It clarifies priorities, and at night, it allows the mind to disengage without fear. Nothing is being abandoned. Nothing is being neglected. The day has reached its limit. That limit is not arbitrary. It is humane. The moral wisdom of enough lies in knowing when to stop. And stopping when done at the right time is not an ending. It is preservation.